Wrestling is dangerous, and to mitigate that danger, there needs to be a lot of trust and cooperation between wrestlers, i.e., if I jump off this balcony, you guys are gonna fucking catch me, right? However, ego is a dangerous thing. I know that because I'm wise and hung like a train, and sometimes wrestlers take it upon themselves to veer off script and fight the bookers, the agents, and even each other for realsies. Why a wrestler would do this and risk pissing off a locker room of men whose job it is to look like giant flanks of ham is beyond me. I can't even look primate in the eyes, but it's happened more often than you'd think. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 wrestlers who purposefully sabotaged matches. Number 10, Eddie Guerrero. Hey look, we're talking about One Night Stand 2005 again. Did you know that the Blue Meanie once had a shoot fight with JBL? No you, Marks, we're covering new ground here. Latino Heat was one of the best wrestlers to ever grace the ring, but he also had something of a temper. He was embroiled in a feud with Rey Mysterio when the one-off ECW special aired, and Heyman booked a dream match that he never got to book in ECW's original run, Guerrero versus Benoit. Eddie was booked to lose, which he wasn't keen on because he was already jobbing lots to Ray, and when the fans spent most of the match chanting obscenities at WWE superstars on the balcony, and when Eddie suffered a cut on his nose early, he got pissed and decided to phone in the rest of the match. It wasn't an awful match, but when you consider what these two men are capable of, it's a big disappointment. After the match, Benoit was furious, and Eddie could be seen mouthing, "I owe you one," to the crippler. Number 9, the Dirt Bike Kid and the Great Suzuki. Fans disagree on who it was that sabotaged this match, so it's generally agreed to be both. Michinoku Pro is a Japanese promotion, the chief style for which is Lucha Libre. As such, it held a tournament comprised entirely of masked wrestlers. One of those was the Dirt Bike Kid, who we can all agree sounds like an extremely radical fellow. He was a British wrestler who'd been making waves and was invited to take part in this tournament. However, he was a bit offended by being asked to wear a mask and removed it before the match. Big mistake. His opponent, the Great Suzuki, who just so happened to run the company, got offended, went off script, kicked Dirt Bike Kid hard in the ribs over and over and over again, and then legitimately tapped him out. Never mess with Japan. Number 8, Rick Steiner. The dog-faced gremlin, aka the best nickname ever, had a reputation of being a teeny bit of a bully, shooting on jobbers and generally leaving most of his opponents black and blue. In a tag match for Southeast Championship Wrestling in 2005, he picked on the wrong guy, a guy called Vordal Walker, who happened to be trained in a variety of martial arts. After Rick gave Walker a stiff kick to the face early on, Walker wrestled Steiner to the ground to, quote, try to get him to chill out. Walker angered Steiner further by not taking a powerbomb from him, and Steiner shouted at him in the ring that he couldn't work, refused to wrestle him anymore, and forced him to tag out of the match. Number 7, Bruiser Brody. The Intelligent Monster, which is a much better nickname than the dog-faced gremlin, was a very scary man indeed. He appeared to be genuinely unpredictable, unhinged, and was a fan of brutality, which left fans and wrestlers alike a bit, well, wary of the hairy bastard, which is why Lex Luger straight up ran away when it became clear that Brody wasn't going by the script in a cage match they had in the 1980s. It's never been revealed what caused a disagreement between the two men. Meltzer speculates that it's because Luger refused to lose, but either way, Brody was not having any of Luger that night. He only half sold most of his offense, stopped selling completely before the end, then repeatedly locked Luger in a legitimate front face lock. Luger escaped, pushed over the ref to cause a DQ in a cage match, jumped over the cage walls, and immediately walked to the back away from the pissed off scary giant. Number 6, Koji Katao. Oh, Japanese wrestlers, they will kick your face until it's a different face. Koji Katao created a reputation for himself by being a giant wang, notably getting exiled from New Japan Pro Wrestling after using a racial slur against a fellow Korean wrestler. In a match for SWS, he was fighting John Tenta, aka Earthquake, in WWE, and played his bell-end card hard by refusing to cooperate at all. The two men started to fight for real, resulting in Katao lunging for Tenta's eyes at one point. You can see the two men absolutely loathe each other as they stand waiting for the other to shoot attack them. Tenta shouts obscenities at Katao, telling him this is pro wrestling, before Katao shoot kicks the ref, causing a DQ. A bizarre confrontation which ended with Katao taking to the mic to call wrestling fake after the match, successfully blackballing himself from yet another wrestling company. Number 5, Brian Gamble. Being a jobber must be tricky. It's your job every day to get humiliated by your opponent, take all of his most savage offense, and not get paid huge amounts to do it, which is I guess why an enhancement talent called Brian Gamble decided one day to press his luck. Problem was, he did that against Perry Saturn, who has a PhD in your shit up from Don't You Look at Me University. Gamble was booked to put Saturn over in Gamble's hometown on an episode of WWF Metal, but he didn't want to look weak in front of his friends and family. He started half-selling Saturn's offense, often refusing to fall to the mat and staggering around instead, like Brock Lesnar does, because they're the same person. Furious at this kid for going off script, Saturn started to stiff the youth and locked him in a legit version of his submission. After the match, Brian Gamble was promptly thrown out of the building, which may have saved him from having his face kicked in. Number 4, Mike Blackwell. Yeah, this guy wasn't so lucky. he got a goddamn beating for this. For Worldwide Wrestling, he and a large dude called Avalanche were wrestling the Skyscrapers, Dan Spivey and Sid Vicious, neither of whom are guys to mess with. Blackwell was a very bad jobber indeed, in that he no-sold his opponent's offense. After every move, he would immediately pop back up to his feet. He had to be held down for the 3, thrashing his legs after taking their double team finisher, and then again got straight to his knees. So Spivey and Vicious beat the crap out of him right there on camera, kicking him in the head outside the ring and decking him with numerous real punches before the footage was hastily cut away. Number 3, Shawn Michaels. Oh, Shawn, lol. SummerSlam 2005, Hogan versus Michaels, and one of the most documented cases of politics spilling out into the wrestling ring ever. We've spoken about it loads, so I'll be brief. Hogan and Michaels were initially booked for a trilogy of matches in which Michaels would win at least one. Hogan nixed that, it'll be one and done at SummerSlam, and he should be the conquering face. Michaels responded to this politicking by either ruining the match or making it hilarious. Depends on how you see it. He oversold Hogan with a loose-limbed grace of a plate of spaghetti being spun on a hamster wheel. It was a parody of a match, and that's what happens if you mess with the showstopper. Number 2, Hollywood Hogan. Yep, the Hulkster's partial to a bit of sabotage himself, believe it or not, and this was in a match on an even grander stage. Starrcade 1997, and the main event pitted Hogan against Sting in a battle that had been hyped for most of a year. It genuinely felt like the biggest moment in WCW history, and they messed with it, allegedly. The story is that Sting turned up to the event out of shape. He'd been going through personal problems, and his crow gimmick meant that he hadn't wrestled for months. As a result, Hogan and Eric Bischoff, I love you, changed the match to have a false finish where a ref would fast count Hogan pinning Sting. Then the match would be restarted, and Hogan would save a bit of face, I guess. It doesn't quite add up. Why did they do that? Doesn't matter. Thing is, this wasn't all. Hogan then apparently instructed ref Nick Patrick to perform a regular count instead of a fast count to avoid making him look weak at all, royally screwing up the finish to the biggest match in WCW history. And number 1, Yoshiko. Jesus Christ, this is just a horrible story. So Yoshiko is a fucking asshole and was champion for Stardom, a Japanese all-women promotion. In February 2015, she was booked to defend her title against Aki Yasukara when she went crazy mid-match and started to viciously shoot on her opponent, laying in multiple stiff shots to her face, going for her eyes, with which Yasukara had publicly known issues. As a result of Yoshiko going off script to a sickening degree, after the match was called off, Yasukara had suffered fractured cheek, nasal and orbital bones, which would require surgery. Yoshiko was suspended and then forced into temporary retirement for her awful behaviour. It's the most gruesome and shocking depiction of in-ring sabotage ever to stain a wrestling ring. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.